Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries in 1957. So yes, back again with another Bergman review here, and yes, the same year as the only other Bergman that I saw, The Seventh Seal, of course. Have it here on Blu-ray, the lesser edition here, but it's still The Seventh Seal on Blu-ray, and yes, that was my first Bergman review back in March, so it's been a few months, and I love this film. I think it's a great film, and yes, I'm actually going to rewatch that very, very soon, actually. Certainly have to see on this, and I will require more, try and get some Criterions again as well. I managed to pick this up on Criterion Blu-ray, so I was very, very pleased about this, and yes, just a great. I love the poster to this in general. I think it's one of his best posters, actually, and yes, Criterion, of course. There's nothing bad about this. This is a great addition, and was pretty cheap actually as well. So yes, this film, was kind of the one I wanted to start with originally, but because the actual plot, kind of, I just thought it'd probably be very, very easy to connect to. Probably nothing too abstract, and just something that has been known to be one of the most accessible Bergman films. And I think that is always subjective, really. And this one certainly did appeal to me more than his other works, most of them anyway. I think Fanny and Alexander is probably the one I look forward to the most, actually, out of all of his work, but this one was certainly up there, and it's one of the most acclaimed films of all time, and Seventh Seal, I think, is a great film, and I'm going to rewatch that, certainly after seeing this one, and we'll rewatch that quite soon, and who knows, if I think it's even better than I remembered, I'll review that again, but yes, this film, it's been known to be one of the best films ever made, and the same year, of course, which is kind of a feat in itself. These two, films that are regarded as some of the very, very best, actually, both of them, released in the same year, and writer and director on both. This guy, so yes, Bergman. It certainly caught my attention after these two films. Let me tell you, I think The Seventh Seal is a great film, and who knows, I might love it even more on my second watch. Wild Strawberries is a wonderful, wonderful masterpiece, in my opinion. This film is stunning. It really is everything I hoped it would be, and this guy has got my attention now. He truly, truly has. The Seventh Seal, I was already looking online and stuff, and just trying to put more research into this guy because I was so interested by that film, and I loved it, of course. But this film certainly solidified the fact that this guy is probably going to be, eventually, I predict, quite high on my favorite directors list. Certainly, this was a magnificent film. Truly a wonderful experience. And I don't think it's one of the best 50 films I've made, but that's always subjective, of course. There's so many films that are in there that are pretty much impossible to top for me. But on my list. But certainly, I can understand how acclaimed this film is. This is flawless in my opinion. It was just a spiritual experience, everything I hoped for, really, and of course, Victor Sjöström. Sjöström, I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologise if there's any kind of it's the wrong way to say it, but yes, this guy, he was a filmmaker, actually. He was a director, and he didn't make any films, direct any films, for quite a few years. He done some acting roles, and this was actually his last, acting role in a film, and he died, unfortunately, a few years later after this. So this is very significant for him as well, in his career, and because The Phantom Carriage is a film that I'd heard about for so many years, and he actually directed that film, and he's also an actor, so it's very, very interesting. And he basically plays this retired, this peaceful old, retired doctor, and he's basically, the plot is he's going to receive an honorary degree in Sweden, and most of the film is him travelling with his daughter-in-law, played by Ingrid. Thulin, I think that's how you say it as well. I'm sorry again. And she plays Marianne, and she goes with him for most of the film, and as well, it's kind of like a road trip film. They do encounter hitchhikers, you could say, and just kind of he meets as well just some people he knew from his past and everything, and including a little kind of a small appearance by Max von Sydow. He plays the character as well. Very very small though. He's not in too much of the film. But yes, Bibi Andersson plays one of the main characters as well, and it's just this film. Again, very very short, like The Seventh Seal. But it's this film that it's basically a contemplation on life, and through these encounters and through his discussions, for example, with Marianne, the daughter-in-law, you basically get to know how he kind of regrets things, and just his own kind of looking back on moments in his life, and it's just a lot of it's just told through flashbacks, for example, which you'd expect, of course, because it is kind of on the road and it's quite a short film, and it's of course looking back. So yeah, flashbacks, and kind of very very really really haunting but beautiful dream sequences as well, and this is a film that is it's a haunting film, actually at times very disturbing, wow, but purely a beautiful film as well, and it's a very complex film, but at the same time simple and pure in the essence of the main narrative and the emotions that I felt, while it is kind of ambiguous a little bit, or kind of obscure, you could say, kind of a little bit abstract maybe. I think it truly, I got the emotions from this film, no doubt, and just an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion. Ingrid Jullan is just absolutely wonderful in this film, and Victor Sjöström, what a standout performance, and this is one of the best performances I've ever seen, actually. It was really something else, and really, this film is just so emotional, of course. It tells this story, and it has such a scope to it, but even though it's a very, very short film, and yes, this film, it kind of shares some similarities, in terms of how the characters kind of band together, and the way, again, it kind of explores themes of death, and it kind of, you contemplate things in the film, and the way it deals with spirituality, a little bit different in this film, but again, it has some similarities with The Seventh Seal. I think overall, certainly my first viewing anyway, who knows what I'll think after multiple viewings. I think this is definitely hands down a better film, and it just really blew me away, and certainly on my favourite films list, no doubt. This film is just wonderful, from the opening, just the way it kind of involved me. Not everyone will kind of be enthralled by this film, but I certainly was, from start to finish, because it's something that emotionally, I was connecting to. The sincerity of this film is really something else, and this is a director who, even clearly in his early stages, he was someone who was very certainly developed artistically, and just he knew clearly how to approach dark subject matter, in a very very a truly profound way, and it's something actually. It's very uplifting. This film is not a depressing film. I didn't find, you could maybe someone could describe it as a depressing film, but no. And I actually kind of thought it would be like something like Akira, actually, from Kurosawa, where it is something like uplifting as well as kind of sad, and it just is. I think the predictions that I had of the film kind of came true mostly, actually, and it's just a wonderful experience, and yes. From the opening, his housekeeper as well. I loved that character. Agda, I believe it was. She was really warm and kind of a peaceful character, and there's this great humour in the film at first as well. This is the thing; it has great humour, great comedy throughout to kind of ground it and just make it more, just a more kind of enjoyable experience, to lighten the kind of dark tone at times it has, and. I just found so much comfort in the film, and it's been named as just a favourite, at least among a favourite of many filmmakers, individuals. Stanley Kubrick, for example, which is great. And yes, I certainly understand. It's just a comforting film, but one that's really really powerful. Certainly, by the end of the film, the second half is probably a lot more kind of emotional, sad at times, but it's just. Completely a spiritual experience, and yes, I was just so invested. I love how it kind of takes, it takes its time, its patience. Really, the film, Bergman, just the way he writes this at the beginning, the opening scenes is just so great, and the first dream sequence, you know, the clock, and this is a spoilers review kind of, but yeah, the clock without any actual hands. I love this moment. I really, really love this, and actually the kind of thing that shows up later in the film. I love that moment as well. But yeah, it's moments like this that kind of so disturbing. They're very abstract and kind of yeah, it's very, very interesting, unique, very disturbing, but kind of just it's something that, you know, that you can kind of dreams basically are similar to what I've had maybe in the past. It's very, very realistic in terms of how it portrays the dream sequences, while also being very, very fantastical. I guess dreams are, you know, fantasy, of course, but yes, you know, it's something that approaches it in a way that's kind of something you can see. It's just so perfect for the cinema, you know, but also, you know, it's something that actually feels very, very true as well, and that's what the film does. It's kind of, it is a dreamlike film. It's kind of fantastical at times, while also being a very, very truly focused and kind of you know, realistic and human story. You know, it's a wonderful balance of fantasy and reality, and you know, this he just seems to be one of these directors who's going to probably do that, you know, better than most, actually, for me. Once I see all of his films, you know, this guy has just impressed me so much, especially with this film. And you know, it's a film that, you know, is kind of, as I say, it has a big scope, and it feels like you've covered quite a lot of this individual's life, you know, of this character, of this doctor, and yes, Isaac, and basically, you know, the dream sequences, of course, the kind of flashbacks are so beautiful. They really, really are. Of course, you see him, you know, he goes to this particular location early on, and that moment got me. Wow, you know, it's so powerful. You know, when he sat down and, you know, he kind of looked on at the house and he saw his past, and he was just looking on at this, and you see them. You know, it kind of takes its time. You see a lot of his, you know, family and stuff at the dinner table, and yeah, it's just really, really beautiful moment, and it's the way that it's shot. Wow, you know, this film, certainly some of the very, very best cinematography I've ever seen. You know, this is probably better than The Seventh Seal, actually, in its cinematography. I think this is just stunning. The lighting is done in a particular way that, as well, for the black and white, actually, it just looks, you know, I was thinking, wow, I'm so glad this isn't in colour. This just really has a wonderful effect, to a point where it just elevates so much, and it's kind of just like a overwhelming nature of just shadows and light combined. You know, it's such a contrast, and you know, it really makes this kind of an infernal experience. These dream sequences, the flashbacks, you know, just the kind of the memories he has, you know, just particular locations, you know, it packs a punch so much, and you just feel this film, you feel it so much. The atmosphere, you know, is so consistent. You know, there's always something going on. You know, the mood of the film, the tone, is so consistent, and you know, not for a single moment was I thinking this was a flat film. I know some people, I guess, will feel that. You know, it won't always, you know, because it's not a film that yeah, I guess everyone will love. But I was just constantly enthralled by this. There was always something going on, whether it's visually, with the subtle use of music, or just the, you know, the characters telling more and more about their past, even when it's not flashbacks, the conversations, you know, for example, with Sarah, Bibi Andersson's character, she was a great character, and just the conversations with her, it's really just true dialogue, I would say. You know, that's how to describe it, true to life, honest, and you know, so pure as well, you know, and so uplifting. And her character, I think, is great. It's kind of a really interesting thing, genius thing he does, Bergman, with her character, and she kind of brings out, you know, reminds, you know, our protagonist of Isaac, you know, of his kind of his past days, and actually a former lover. But yes, you know, she was kind of this lively character, you know, with a lot of vigor and youth, and yes, it basically, the way this is used, this character, to kind of bring out more, you know, musings of our main protagonist. You know, there's actually a wonderful way, you know, to kind of develop this character, and she just, I think the side characters, every single one, so memorable. And just so many moments in the film that was just so wonderful, and you know, these characters, as I say, the character of Marianne, you know, she's such a great character, and for example, the moment, you know, where she reveals more kind of stuff, she confides in, you know, her father-in-law, you know, eventually kind of, you know, they certainly grow, the relationship grows over the course of the film. She tells him, and you see, of course, the discussion about her kid, you know, her pregnancy, and you know, it's a really, really human moment. These are themes that are really dealt with wonderfully and very, very powerfully. You know, it's truly something else. You know, when you know, the son, of course, of Isaac, says to her, you know, that he doesn't want the kid and stuff. It's moments like this, you know, that are just so wonderful, and it's just, you know, in the end, as we know, you know, she does, you know, in the end, you know, really grow to kind of love this character more, you know, the father-in-law, and there's a wonderful moment, of course, just before, you know, the final scene, really, when she kind of, she hugs him and stuff, and a really lovely moment, I think, and just, I loved her character in this film, such a great, great character, and the same can be said in different ways for Bibi Andersson's character. You know, she was really great, and, you know, she's kind of very, you know, kind of immature character perhaps, you know, and it's just so many different people in the film, you know, that kind of, because such traits to their characters, and it all kind of adds to this, you know, developing and exposing stuff about this individual life, our main character, and you know, the way he responds to this, and you know, it's just, you know, this film deals with so many themes, you know, guilt, you know, kind of regret, simply for life maybe, but again, it's through these characters and it's through these relationships that actually it's got such a heart and a humanity, and an uplifting nature and a true warmth, you know, and the highlight being this main relationship between this you know, these two characters, of course, you know, Marianne and Isaac, that really is central to the film, and just absolutely stunning film. It's a film, you know, like a typical road trip film kind of thing, where you remember all the different moments so vividly, but it kind of, and it just adds, every single moment adds to this experience, this narrative, and the overall, how memorable, you know, this is. For example, when they crash as well, they see that couple, and of course, as we know, they get in the car, and you know, they argue, and you know, it's kind of quite a dark moment in the end, the way they have to, you know, I was just thinking, how great is this film, you know, how invested is this, and you know, when they have to tell them to get out of the car, there's something about that scene that's very, very powerful, and just, you know, it's kind of a comparison of different relationships, a study of this, that whole sequence, and you know, it's just a really beautiful scene, but also very, very dark as well, and quite sad actually how it ends up, but it's just, you know, this is a film that has so much comedy, so much uplifting moments, and it's also got, you know, definitely dark moments, ones that, you know, very, very, they're quite sad actually at times, and you know, the whole kind of, when he receives his honorary degree, as we know, you know, he doesn't really respond to kind of, you know, it seems like he doesn't really care, and I think that's the point it's making, one of the points of the film, of course, it's just, you know, it focuses so much, you know, on just the most important things in life, and you know, at the end of the day, this you know, this award, you know, doesn't mean too much to this guy, and you know, really finding what truly matters in his old age, you could say, you know, contemplating his life, and I think the ending, you know, few minutes, is some of the best, you know, one of the best endings I've seen really in a long time. You know, the way that final kind of couple of shots, the look on his face, Victor Sjöström, you know, gave a masterful performance in this film, and the final shots, the level of emotion on his face, this is something else. Truly moved me at times to tears. Actually, this film is a very, very immensely powerful film, and very melancholy, but really, you know, it's more than that. It's just, it's so full of, you know, purity, this film, and the emotions I felt were something else. You know, I think it's truly moved me, this film, and you know, it's certainly a masterpiece to me. You know, I can't think of a single flaw that this film had. While I understand it's not, you know, not a film that everyone will love, mainly cinematically, I think, you know, it's maybe not a film that everyone will kind of respond to in the way it's made, because it's just, it's very, very different. It's very kind of particular in its approach, but I find it to be so, the way he directed this film to be so investing, the way it plays out on screen, and just so kind of just spiritual, and the way I can take things in visually, the way he moves the camera, of course, just all these tracking shots, the motivated camera movements, and the unmotivated ones, the ones where, there's a lot of symbolism in the film, and it all meshes to make, for me, a perfect film, and just such a wonderful experience. It really, really is, this film, and it just truly moved me, and it's not in my top 100 or anything, but it's certainly on my list, and it's definitely very, very high on my list of favourite films. But who knows? When I rewatch this, the more and more I watch it, because it's the first watch, of course, and it actually just kind of exceeded my expectations. Who knows? I could eventually put it higher on my list, and certainly definitely open to that. It's a one that actually by the end of it I was kind of already looking back on moments in the film, and it was kind of just growing on me even more. It's just a wonderful film, and the initial, of course, impact, and then you look back on the film, having watched it last night actually. It's not a film I watched today. It's certainly a film that will grow on me even more, and I look forward to that, of course, on the viewings. But yes, I certainly think this is a masterpiece. Everything in this film, the editing, the use of music, a lot more kind of subtle than you could expect. It definitely has a truly wonderful effect. I love the exposition of this character. I think he's one of the best written characters in the film, really. I think all the dialogue in the film is wonderful. It never becomes, the poetry of it overtaking anything, actually, true to the story and true to the characters. This film perfectly balances out, these life lessons, and this kind of poetry, to the script, with the realism and the overall just humanity. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful film, a gift, and hopefully I can say that about a lot more of this guy's films. Certainly The Seventh Seal is a great one, and I love that film. But this one, for me, as I say, on the first watch, I'm very open to it. Seventh Seal could grow on me a lot more, but my first watch, for me, Wild Strawberries is just leagues ahead, in terms of how profound it is, in terms of the acting, and just the overall narrative, and how I was just invested and moved, and uplifted, and everything I wanted cinema, really, in this film. And yes, overall, of course, is a masterpiece, and I do give it 100%, full marks from me, and it's very, very close. I'm not going to say, certainly I'm open to it going into the plus tiers eventually, but for now, I say it's just close. It really, really is, to the tier 3, for example. Certain films that kind of on standby, maybe, that I've given 100, films that I've reviewed, films that I've not reviewed on the channel, that I've given 100, that over time I might eventually give them, tier 3 or tier 2 even, maybe. But certainly this one, let me tell you, why I don't put it into my plus tiers at the moment. It's certainly a film that I'm open to giving, maybe a plus in the future. But for now, certainly one of my favourite films. It's made it into my top 300 for sure. Definitely very, very high on that. I'm not going to say much more, where it is and stuff. And it certainly will move up, that's for sure, on rewatches, I'm sure. But, this is just a wonderful, wonderful film, a truly spiritual experience, one that's just so memorable, so investing. The way this man, Isaac is haunted, by his past, but also kind of just finding comfort in his past memories. The nostalgia levels to this film are through the roof. This is the perfect combination, to kind of just complete this narrative. You have dark moments. You have very definitely, it seems like a horror film at times. The moment, of course, where you see his body in the coffin, as we know, early on, is kind of just going right up to the camera. That's just a perfect portrayal of a disturbing dream, a nightmare, of course. It's perfect in all these sequences, very disturbing, but they make sense. In terms of the psychology of this guy, and as well, I find great beauty and comfort in the film. It really moved me. It certainly did, and so many films do. And once again, I stress, while it doesn't get a plus, it doesn't have to be into my 100% pluses to be a film that brought me to tears, or that's kind of that I love to bits. I do adore the film. It's not my top 100 or anything, but it's certainly well into my top 300, 250. I think it's just a magnificent film, mythic film. Has such an atmosphere, cinematography, editing, use of music, absolutely genius. This is directed to perfection, in my opinion, and I certainly wowed by the film. The acting, Victor Sjöström, absolutely stunning in the film. Wow, he was absolutely wonderful, and what a final performance. It really was very moving performance. And Ingrid, Jullan, she was wonderful. She was my favourite side character as well. She played Marianne. I love the kind of her story as well. With of course the son of character of Isaac, and the kind of feud that goes on, the very dark relationship they have and stuff. But the way that's told is just beautiful. Even when the film has dark moments, it's done in a way that's just so sincere and human that I never get to a point where it's depressing. This film is always just so uplifting or just beautiful, in every single way. The way the film is visually, is just absolutely stunning. This film elevates to such a high, visually. It's something else. It really is among the best cinematography that I've seen. Who knows if it's kind of top 100 cinematography, but certainly not far off if it's not that, because there's so many films, of course, that have wonderful cinematography. But this is certainly, if someone asked me, is it among the best? I'd say yes, definitely, absolutely. The way he captures nature, and just the way that he shows the locations, the house early on, for example, just all these kind of the moments where he's looking back, or and stuff. It's so powerful, nostalgic, and just truly wonderful film. And he finds comfort moments, and he's haunted, and it's overall film maybe that kind of ends, or it's maybe ambiguous, but it's something that is definitely complete, in what it's trying to say, or simply explore the themes, the narrative, the way that it's done is just executed to perfection, in my opinion. It's a premise that certainly in a film, this is something I always look for, just these human stories. It's certainly one where it's nostalgic, and someone looking back over their life, and it's just wonderful how these side characters bring out moments of joy, in our main protagonist, and the moments where he kind of he is kind of saddened at times, maybe, but it's a very complex and kind of bittersweet film at times. It's not one-sided at all, and I think it's treated with such dignity. These characters, the kind of the way that they're kind of presented, and the way it kind of deals with at least the thought of death, throughout most of the film, and it's just truly stunning. This film, I cannot believe how good this is. It's just a wonderful film. I agree. It's certainly one of the among the greatest films ever made, no doubt. Despite where it is, regardless of where it is on my list, if it's a top 10 film or whatever, I do agree it's among the best films. Certainly, it's a pure film. It's a nostalgic film. Such a powerful one. Brought me to tears on several occasions, and one that I loved. Pretty much all the characters I absolutely loved, and I was always kind of intrigued by even some of the very small characters in the film. But all of the main characters, and the people that join him in the car and stuff, for example, were just so memorable. And I love the moment, right towards the end, Bibi Andersson's character and the two guys, of course, they kind of part ways. It's just a wonderful kind of lovely moment when they say farewell. I got so invested, in this film, and these characters, and it's just a simple case. It doesn't quite get into the plus tier at the moment. It certainly could, but there's so many films at the cinema that I love, and that's a great thing. about cinema and all these directors. If you really explore, you'll be, just greeted with so much wonderful films, and this is certainly among them. It really, really is, and just thankful for the experience. Bergman has certainly got my interest now. No doubt. The journey is underway, and yes, a masterpiece. Will wrap up. I think it's a wonderful film, and I certainly, it's been hard to kind of get a hold, or at least plan out what I'm going to do with the rest of his films. I don't think I can say I want to be able to afford, or get the Ingmar Bergman set, the one that came out kind of recently. The kind of, I think it's called Bergman Cinema, that Criterion one. It probably won't happen. It's very hard to get a hold of, and certainly, it's just maybe a hassle to get that. And the fact I've already bought, a couple already, but certainly, if I don't do that, I will be getting, as much as I can on Criterion. I think because it's the way to watch them. Persona, for example. I'm definitely getting that very soon. Fanny and Alexander. Yes, just certain ones like Scenes from a Marriage and all these renowned films. I will be getting in the best available copy, and basically every single one eventually I will see some way or another, and that's the most important thing. Because unfortunately it is quite hard. Even this set that's been brought out, as I say, it's kind of hard for me to get this. But I certainly am absolutely hyped for the rest of this guy's work. Just such a genius, it seems. Someone whose work is both investing and kind of just intriguing. The idea of his films, the overall kind of atmosphere, the approach is so unique, and for example, Persona just looks like a film. Whether I love it or not, because it's quite a divisive film, certainly I am intrigued by this, and I will get something from it. Just looks, it looks like I could love the film. Actually, really, really does. It looks quite stunning, actually, from what I've kind of seen maybe a couple of clips, actually, and just overall looked at the film from many angles, and I just can't wait to see that, for example. But Fanny and Alexander is the one I've always wanted to. Certainly been looking forward to the most, I would say. But this film, overall, I highly, highly recommend this film. It's quite a life-changing one. It's a one that's just full of atmosphere, nostalgia, deep, deep emotions. At times, very subtle. Maybe people won't respond to it, in overwhelming ways at times. Certainly on first viewing, but I did, and it has an effect on you afterwards as well. It's kind of this feeling when you look back over the film, and it just grows on you. Certainly does. So that's why I say, it could be 100% question mark, because it's kind of undecided. I certainly could give it tier 3 at least at some point on a rewatch. But for now, no doubt a masterpiece, no doubt a flawless film for me, and one of my favourite films. So yes, thanks for watching my review.